Fair use. Fair use.
Author Salman Rushdie, recovering from what his son calls life-changing injuries after being stabbed multiple times while giving a lecture. Mola Lenghi is live outside the hospital in Erie, Pennsylvania, where he is being treated this morning. Mola, good morning. Mola Lenghi is live.
Well, good morning, Gio. Yeah, Rushdie remains in critical condition after that near-deadly attack, stabbed nearly a dozen times. His agent telling ABC News he is on that long road to recovery, though, as you mentioned, his family saying that those injuries are life-changing.
This morning, signs of hope for author Salman Rushdie after a brutal attack. His family encouraged that the 75-year-old author is off a ventilator and able to speak. Rushdie's son, Zafar, writing, though his life-changing injuries are severe, his usual feisty and defiant sense of humor remains intact. Life-changing injuries including severed nerves in his arm, a punctured liver. Rushdie also likely to lose an eye after being stabbed Friday morning just before speaking at a lecture series at the Chautauqua Institution in Western New York. Authorities say Hadi Matar, a 24-year-old man from New Jersey, rushed the stage and attacked the author, stabbing him at least 10 times before finally being tackled by several people attending the event. Rushdie quickly airlifted to a hospital in nearby Erie, Pennsylvania, where he underwent hours of life-saving surgery. Prosecutors say the suspect, who appeared in court Saturday, pre-planned the attack, obtaining an advance pass to Friday's event, arriving one day earlier, carrying a fake ID. Henry Reese, also injured in the attack, was on stage with Rushdie.
I mean, clearly the attack had some motivation. What the motivation was, I don't know.
Investigators describing the attack as an assassination attempt by an individual with strong indicators of ideological support for the Iranian regime. Among the images investigators found on the suspect's phone were photos of Iranian Major General Qasem Soleimani, who was killed in a U.S. drone strike in 2020. Rushdie targeted for murder by Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini in 1988, who issued a fatwa after Rushdie published his novel The Satanic Verses, a book the regime considered to be insulting to Islam. After going into hiding, Rushdie granted his first live interview to ABC News.
I think probably the worst part has been not knowing how long it was going to go on for. I think if somebody had said to me, you know, here's a jail sentence, it's going to be 2 years, then it's over, I could perhaps have dealt with that. It's the open-endedness that's been difficult.
Well, this morning, Iran denying any involvement in the attack, saying that Rushdie brought the attack upon himself. And the suspect is facing attempted second-degree murder and second-degree assault charges. He has pleaded not guilty and is scheduled to be back in court at the end of this week, Robin.
All right, Mola, our thanks to you.
Hey, what's going on? As you can see, one more time, here, this is the Introvert Boricua, struggle streaming, as normal. Shout out to the 18 letter. I don't know if you might be like on the road because of what you do. I understand if you are, but I figured that at least you are posting in the comments. But I did wanted to know if maybe you could stop by and join the panel when I drop the link. I'm gonna be doing that soon. Okay. So this is not planned. This is something that it was a bit of an impulse. It's just that in the past couple of days, I have been hearing about what happened to this author. Many people might not know so much about what happened with him, but this is something that takes me back, actually. when I was just out of elementary school, if you can believe it, when this situation, when this controversy first popped off. At first, I didn't know anything about Islam. I was just a kid fresh out of elementary school, and I remember, of course, no social media at the time, and I recall hearing about it on the news, about the situation, about what happened to this author, and how there was this major controversy that troubled many parts of the world, and it was about this book that he released that is called The Satanic Verses. Now, imagine me as a kid hearing that from a newscaster, somebody in the news talking about there was an author that wrote a book called The Satanic Verses. I mean, me as a kid, I hear that and I get a little scared. Like, wow, somebody is actually publishing a book with that name. I didn't know the background. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't understand that for a long time at that time, because it has such a scary ass title. I wasn't interested in knowing what it was about, so I didn't do any research on it at the time. But a few years back, when I already had internet available, then I started kind of looking it up a little bit. Nobody was talking about it. Nobody was talking about what happened to the author. And I was kind of oblivious. I had never heard about Islam at the time. I don't recall hearing about it when I was a kid. What's going on, MK? What's happening? And when several years after that, it's one of those things that kind of stay with you. You're a kid, it makes an impression of you, but you don't necessarily know all of the details. You don't know all of the facts as to what happened. Now, this is just me speaking out of what I recall off the top of my head. I didn't look into it for a long time. Forgot about it, and then a few years back, when I had access to the internet, then I remember what happened with when it came to the book. The title came back to mind, and I said, okay, let me look this up. I had the internet available. I looked this up. I looked it up what the book was actually about. I thought it was kind of like some book about the devil, worshiping the devil or something like that. That's what the title suggested, but it wasn't like that at all. It's a fictional story where it has elements of magic realism. Before I continue, I want to give a shout out to K-Fit. What's going on, girl? What's happening? Going through the posts. Yeah, man. I mean, it was kind of scary. Like I said, I had just left. I had just been out of elementary school at the time, and the title of the book, followed by the controversy and how I was already hearing about the death threats made on the actor at that time. This was in 1988. It was kind of scary to hear about. I didn't want to know anything about the book itself. I mean, like, is this guy crazy? Is this a devil worshiper who released this? And then when I started looking into it, doing the research about it a number of years back, I was able to realize that it was a fictional story. It was a fictional story with elements of something that is called magical realism, because it involves characters, the main characters, kind of like being involved in a terrorist attack on a plane, and the there is a botch attempt where a bomb goes off and destroys an airplane with the two main characters, and one turns into an angel as they fall down to earth. The other turns into a devil. I mean, into the devil. It's kind of like a crazy story. One has to be a little high to write something like that. But the thing, what made the book so controversial is that it does take elements of Islam itself. The two main characters are East Indian Muslims. The author himself is an East Indian, but I don't know if he himself has a Muslim background. I don't know. Apparently, he wasn't practicing Islam, but he was familiar with it, possibly because of his parents, probably. So there was that. He was Salman Rushdie wrote the book, released the book. He knew that there were controversial parts of it because it does have a fictionalized version of the Prophet Muhammad. It goes by a different name in the book. Now, according to legend, the part that made the book so controversial is that, according to legend, there were certain verses that were supposed to go into the Quran, that were part of the Quran, but they were left out because they tell something that it was found to be unacceptable. As we all know, when it comes to Islam, is strictly monotheistic. There is only one God there, and that's it. That's that. But allegedly, in these verses that were deemed later on to be the satanic verses, there is kind of like an exception, a temporary exception made that involves 3 pagan goddesses in Mecca before there was such a thing as Islam. Apparently, the allegation is that there were 3 pagan goddesses that were part of pagan culture in the region where Mecca is located. The people that are very very devout to the religion say that never happened, but that persists. Those verses do persist, and that's where the title comes from, because they were designated to be satanic in nature. It was a great mistake that may have happened with the prophet. That he may have made a mistake because according to the legend, he got these revelations about the 3 pagan goddesses. He thought they came from Allah, but it was actually by the devil. And a lot of people say, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. I'm not here to say whether it happened or not. I'm just telling you about what the allegation is. And that's where the name comes from. But I just wanted to kind of like mention that recently, last weekend, especially you guys that are from New York, you may have heard about this, that the author got stabbed a couple of 3 days ago. Only 3 days ago. He's been dealing with a fatwa since like 1988, 1989, and he's still dealing with attempts on his life. Now, the allegation is that, he brought that on himself because he disrespected the Prophet and he disrespected Islam, because there is a standing for Muhammad in the book, but he goes by a different name because one of the main characters, is delusional and starts getting kind of revelations, kind of like the same way Muhammad did. And he saw this prophet that goes by a different name, and mentions something about recognizing at least a vision of one of these deities, these female deities. But it does show something about how kind of fanatical certain folks can be. Now, it's easy to say. It's very easy to say, well, that's Islam for you. That's it. That's what it is. That's Islam for you. Okay, that's fine. It's just that there is a certain religion that that existed before that, and because of that religion, millions of people died and entire cultures and civilizations were destroyed. So, I mean, to put it in perspective. But okay, that was bad. That was bad. That's really not a good look. Now, it's not so much what it says in the Quran, because I didn't have a chance to read the Quran. Oh, my bad. I wasn't looking at the comments. Let me see. Yeah, Kayfit. We're here, trying to do this. Hitting letter. Hey, Morena, mami. ¿Qué pasó? ¿Todo bien? Yeah, Morena. I'm kind of like trying to elaborate a little bit on what I mentioned on your live. Because you remember that there was a mention of this author that got stabbed, and I mentioned something about as to why. I didn't say the whole info properly, because I may have misspoke, because I was trying to recall from memory as to why it was, and it wasn't necessarily what I said. What I mentioned in your live stream as to why the actor got in so much trouble still to this day. It does have to do with the contents of his book, yes. But it also I may have misquoted, because there was a part in which I mentioned something about some prostitutes that took the name of the wives of the prophet. I did a little bit of reading, and yes, in the story, in the fictional story with the fictional prophet, there were the wives of the prophet that had different names, and then when the prophet in the story dies, there were these prostitutes that took the names of the wives of that prophet in the story. You see, it gets a little complicated, and that may or may not have been the main reason why the man got into trouble. But what is also is that the satanic verses, those refer to a few verses that recognizes the practice of religious idol worship of pagan symbols. And apparently there were these three goddess deities that the people in Mecca worship before pre-Islam. Apparently, that's the allegation, and because of that name, there was worldwide condemnation. So that's why the man got in trouble. Let's see. Hello, Don Jose. How you doing? No, that's the thing. There was an assassination attempt, and he's recovering because he was stabbed like 10 times, and he may lose movement in one of his arms, and he has like a punctured liver, and he might lose an eye too. It was crazy. It was because of sometimes someone who was fanatical. Now, I did play the clip of a recent news clip when it comes to the situation, and it says something about the attacker that is claiming to have ties with the Iranians. Originally, the fatwa was put in place by the Ayatollah of the time, Khomeini, but apparently the fatwa was never lifted. Now, there was supposedly in the late 90s, the Iranians said that they weren't trying to do anything to the man. They weren't trying to kill him anymore. They let it go. The man had made amends or something like that. But apparently there are always some extremists, some fanatic type. And it's very unfortunate. Yes, there was Morena, it was an attempt, but he is like in the hospital right now with a whole bunch of lacerations and stab wounds, and so he's expected to survive. The man is 75 years old, so hopefully he doesn't go through some complications because of his wounds. King. Hey, hello, Xtina. Hey, did you make it back? Are you still in the DR? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. So that's what I wanted. I kind of wanted to lead in while doing this live stream. I wanted to comment on that because I remember I was a kid. This is not anything new as to what is going on with this guy. Because I was a kid. I was what 11 years old, 11 or 12 years old. Yeah. Morena, well, he's East Indian. I mean, he may look like he's of a different ethnicity, but he's actually of East Indian descent, but British, apparently of British nationality. So maybe he does have a familiarity with the religion, with Islam, because there is a Muslim minority in India. There is this movie called Slumdog Millionaire that tells the story of a kid that is, even though he's in India, he's East Indian, he's in India, but he has an Arabic name because he has a Muslim background, and how he's treated there. He's treated like shit. I mean, but yeah, there is a Muslim minority there. So I don't know if this man Salman Rushdie is of a Muslim background, but he is of East Indian descent. Maybe he has that background. Yes. So that's entirely possible. But yeah, it's just that when I heard about the name again after all these years, I was like, "Oh damn!" There are people that are just fanatical as hell, and that is over verses that are not really recognized. They are called the satanic verses because they're not really recognized as Islamic canon, because it contradicts the description of the prophet as somebody who is infallible. Yes, he wasn't somebody who couldn't read and write according to what is said about him, but supposedly he was infallible, and these verses portray the prophet as somebody who could be fooled by the devil, and supposedly that's why he temporarily recognized the existence of these female deities temporarily, because he was fooled up by the devil, and then he retracted that according to the corresponding hadith that tells the story of that. But I'm not trying to go too much into religion. It's just that I found it very interesting that after all these years, this man was still there was already going to be an attempt on his life. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put the link to see. You guys, you want to share your thoughts, and this is also kind of like an open topic kind of thing. And this is not just about what I'm talking about. I have already mentioned it, and you guys that live in New York, that I'm from New York, you know about the incident because it happened a couple of days back at an amphitheater in New York City. So I'm gonna put the link, and let me hear from you. Let me see. I saw here a bit of a. Let me see. Hang on. All right. I'm going to be bringing up my first guest. All of you guys that are in the chat, any of you are more than welcome to come up. I may not be on that long, but I still wanted to hear from you guys, kind of like talk to you. So I'm gonna be bringing my first guest, I should say. Still get nervous trying to do this, guys. Don Jose, ¿cómo está?
Muy bien. Good evening. It's a very humid night. The temperature is at 74 degrees.
Yeah, okay, humid. Okay, but it's cool. That's cool. That's cool temperature.
Cool for some, not for others.
Yeah, it is. It is cool. Here it's about. Today was about 102. It's been consistent. It's been consistent because all through the summer, from the final days of June all the way until now, it's been consistent. Like just a couple of days in all that time where the temperatures were a little cooler, but it's been consistently over 100 degrees by like 2 in the afternoon. That's the hottest part of the day. 2, 3 in the afternoon. Yeah.
Well, I find it amazing regarding what happened to Salman Rushdie, the fact that they did try to take his life. I didn't think there'd still be a lot of anger regarding his work on Satanic Verses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no, because I remember it so well. I was a little kid back then. I mean, when it first came out, and the whole thing had died down. I mean, when it first in the following years, and I knew that the man had to be like careful moving around because the fanatics were gonna be out there. But the thing is that there are certain people or certain beliefs that do have long memories.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. This is a case of somebody who was deeply offended and just wanting to hold on, wanting to have a long memory about it, and they can't let go.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall, but I think like 30 years ago, there was a controversial film called The Last Temptation of Christ, when Christ was not portrayed in a positive light, and you had a lot of Christians that was upset because of that movie. But I don't recall anyone trying to kill the person who directed the movie or created the screenplay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember the title. I believe it is a movie by Martin Scorsese. I mean, I have seen parts of it. I haven't seen the whole thing, and it's kind of like, from what I recall, it portrays Jesus as somebody who was kind of like a bit of a lesser person. And I believe that there was either a movie or a stage production of a work called Children of a Lesser God, which is also trying to portray deities that where we have an understanding that they're perfect as being less than perfect, more human-like.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like the point of it, trying to do maybe something controversial, but try to humanize more the figures that we are taught that are so superior from us and perfect. Hey, Stina, you say that you still get you still get nervous.
I find it hard to believe that a lady that has almost 12,000 subs still gets nervous.
Yeah. yeah, I find it hard to believe too.
But to each one's own.
Yeah.
So, but unfortunately, you have fanatics, and you have sick fanatics, which is even worse.
Mm-hmm.
And you have people when they're not well mentally, that they're capable of doing anything.
Yeah.
Well, if you say so, Christina. Okay, I'm not going to argue with you.
Hang on. Well, so I mean, I will ask you to come on up and share your thoughts, or maybe you could tell us something about how was it in the DR. But I know you're not gonna hit the link. So
Well, hey,
okay.
if she doesn't even come on my come on my platform,
Yeah, and
hey,
you
we
have
got
the bigger channel. That's right.
not that much bigger though.
Yeah, okay. No, it's bigger. It's bigger. You're doing good. You're doing good. But you're more consistent. I'm the one who tends to kind of kick back more and just watch. So yeah.
Well, actually, the last call-in show I did, I couldn't believe I was on the air for 3.5 hours.
Yeah. I mean, there are some instances in which the flow of the live stream is actually really good, and time goes by quicker. So that means that you're having a good content. You're having good energy flowing.
Yes, and actually, I was blessed by the presence of 4 very strong and articulate ladies.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's right.
yeah. So and and I'm happy because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring more content that the ladies can relate to, so they can be more of an active voice and share their point of view.
That's right.
So
That's right. Hey. So anything else anything that comes to mind when it comes to this situation? There is really not much to say. The guy's been caught. The guy is gonna be facing trial for, I think it's attempted murder. So he's gonna be hit with some charges. This is one of those guys that nobody knows about it, and they don't have any criminal record. It makes them more difficult to see, to spot, because they might not have any kind of suspicious behavior before that. So it can be a little, it can be difficult to see them, to spot them.
mm-hmm.
Hey, K-Fit, come on up. Hit the link.
Yes, by all means. I'm
Let's see if I
sure
can.
I'm sure Kathy has a point of view that she'd like to express. She's not very shy when it comes to expressing her point of view.
No, let's hear it. Let's hear it. I'm putting in the link again.
Oh.
Come on up.
Well, pretty soon, later this month, I'm going to be doing my first 2-part series completely in Spanish.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna have to do something like that, but I barely have an audience, so all the unless everybody that comes up, Spanish speakers, and of course, including you, because you got it. You have a gringo accent, but
Oh boy,
you manage.
I mean, I see you've been hanging out with our friend Denise again.
Nah. It's not that serious.
But,
it's all right.
But the whole point is to trying to, if there's a way that we can bridge the gap between us who are part of the Latina diaspora with our brothers and sisters from their countries in Oregon, because to be perfectly frank, we don't have a clue about you guys, and you don't have a clue about us.
No, and I can only mention what is it that I'm always saying. I mean, the last thing that we need is to be divided, and I do strongly encourage more communication between us. I mean, I can only speak to a degree about us that are us Puerto Ricans, us that are that are coming from the island. We're not really that judgmental. Like, if you sincerely make contact with us, we'll welcome you.
Yeah. And it's just that let's keep it real. Some of us gets really rather sensitive, particularly when it talks about Puerto Rico and how we really don't know about the situation over there. We really don't. And then when someone like yourself or Denise try to explain it, and then some of us get butthurt because I'm Puerto Rican too. Well, look, we're part of the Puerto Rican diaspora, but we're not Puerto Ricans in the sense that we were born and raised on the island. And that's something that we all have to accept, like it or not.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because there have been like a couple of generations removed since the migration of the since the migration of the 1940s and the 50s. In the 50s, my own grandmother migrated to New York City. I don't know if I don't know if it is in the Manhattan area, so I don't really know. The one of the few things that I did hear from Mom is that at one time my grandma actually preferred to live close to where the Italians were at because she could pass for one, because of her complexion, because she thought that the Puerto Ricans that came from the island were too loud and noisy. A Puerto Rican saying the other Puerto Ricans are noisy. Come on, Grandma.
I want to address Puerto Rico. I'm not saying that Denise is wrong. What I'm saying is what happens is some of us get very sensitive and you cannot accept the fact that what Denise is saying is true. That's what I mean.
Well, okay. The part about the divisions, I did express a disagreement. Yes, I did. I didn't argue with her about it. She has her way of seeing things, and I have a way of seeing things. But the whole thing about making divisions, the divisions are already there. We don't have to make something that is already there. There is already a division. There is a little bit of a separation between us. That's already there. The thing is changing them. That's what we need to do.
Okay, but the fact of the matter is we have to acknowledge the fact that there are differences in order for us to have some sort of
but saying that between us, that's redundant. We already know that.
Okay, but unfortunately, sometimes it does take to be repeated again for some people to understand. Now, I don't have a problem with that, because the fact of that is, I don't know what people in Puerto Rico are going through because I never lived there. And it's been a long time since I visited there. So when I hear that I don't understand what's going on over there, it's fact. And I don't take it personally.
Okay. All right. So who are we trying to convince? That would be my question. Who are we trying to convince? All of us here understand that there are differences, but who is it that we believe that we're exactly the same, and we need to get them to understand that there are differences between us? Who are we trying to convince?
Okay, I don't know if the word convincing would be it, but there are some Puerto Ricans to a lesser degree, Florida Ricans, Texas Ricans, Illinois Ricans, Massachusetts Ricans, and everything else.
I always forget about them because I get told that we don't have that much of a presence in Massachusetts. I guess I'm wrong about that.
Well, it's just the reality is this. Just accept who we are. Once we accept who we are, then we can learn from, like, for example, us Norwegians, if we can accept who we are, then
Mhm.
we can try to bridge the differences between us and those who live in the island.
Mhm. Okay.
So that's how I look at it. And I know to some people, Denise sounds a little bit kind of rough, but if you get past the feelings, what she does say is accurate.
Okay, but well, that's something that will be a question for her. But who are we trying to convince that there are differences between us? Because us, you, me, people in the chat, we know that there are differences. Who are we trying to convince that there are differences?
Huh?
That's the question that I keep that I have.
Okay, well, unfortunately, there are those in the diaspora
Okay.
who is not as open-minded as we are. Okay, that's not that's
No
let's,
radical, no radical. Nobody's talking shit about anybody. You can come on up
no, we're
and
not.
hit
No,
the link.
it's like if anything, Brad, I'm defending Denise. So watch what you say.
All right.
No, but look, no, but truth be told, okay. I mean, when it comes to us, we understand who we are.
Yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, you have certain members that is not as open-minded or
Hmm.
understanding or acknowledge that they
No,
are
that's
different.
fine. That's fine. Those that maybe are not open-minded, they can stay. If they are close-minded, they can stay close-minded. The people that we want to talk to are the people that are actually open-minded. Those that want to be close-minded, they can stay close-minded. It's their problem.
Exactly.
They can leave us
Exactly.
alone. Mhm.
Exactly. I just want to do my part to see if we can bridge the difference, bridge the gap.
Yes, yes. What's going on, teacher?
Hey teacher, how you doing?
Yeah.
Come on, join the panel.
Oh, what you said? No, 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 radical. No, nobody's talking about nobody's mama here. Deja esa jodienda.
Brad, if you're so brave, why don't you join us?
Yeah, come on up. Oh. Esa no. Okay,
What?
hang on, hang on. Let me read this. Radical Latina. As a non-Puerto Rican, who's only Puerto Rican adjacent, you need to stop inserting yourself in Puerto Rican spaces where you don't belong. No, no. He's been to the island. He's been to the island, and we are like very. We take people from everywhere.
Yes. Even
We're not
Rad.
from there. Yeah,
Even
yeah.
people. Yeah. Even people like Rad.
Even in Brad, yes.
I'm just reading his next.
Wow, you said she smells like fried cookie. What? Well, hey, fried cookie. I wouldn't know what that smells like.
Neither would I.
Yeah, yeah, because we don't cook cookies. That's not what we do.
Oh, I see. Gigi's in the chat.
Hey, what's going on, Golden? What's happening? It's good to
Okay.
see you on the chat.
Yes. Thanks again for appearing on my platform last week.
But wait, hang on. Come on, Radical. Come on, hit the link. Hit the link.
Yes, Rad. If you're
Nobody's
so
saying
brave,
no.
if you're so
Nobody's saying
brave,
none of that. Nobody is saying none of that. I know that you're gonna run. You're gonna run and tell Dennis something.
and then she's gonna get upset with me, and then she's gonna hit me
Gonna
over the
get
head with a
upset with
chunk.
me. She's gonna throw the chancleta like a boomerang or something.
Okay, I think Gigi has another comment. You're quite welcome, Golden.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yeah, but so that's the so that's the reason why I'm trying to bridge the gap. Those are us who are open-minded. We'll do what we can to lessen the differences between us, and we can learn to accept each other for who we are. Even though I'm more gringo than Latino.
Nah. Yeah, because with that accent. No, but you do okay. You do okay with the Spanish. No, we know Puerto Rican. We know. She's Puerto Rican. I mean, she's an islander. I should know whether she's sensitive or not. I have a pretty good idea.
Yes. Oh, look at that.
Wow, you guys are crazy. You say how arroz con gandules. No, I haven't had arroz con gandules in a long time.
Come to New York and you'll try some.
Yeah. It's a little difficult to find actual Puerto Rican food here. I mean, the nearest place where one can get some Puerto Rican food is like in another city, a whole other city.
I mean,
from where I'm at.
I mean, you can ride the subway even though we have a slight mousy problem over there.
No. Okay. Oh, you mean the rats? The rats that fight people? the rats that will steal your slice of pizza.
No, I'm talking about the little mice that when they see you, they run in the opposite direction.
No. The rats in New York are something special. They'll actually fight you and ride on top of cats and steal your pizza and mouse problem. Rat problem. You go around New York City and you encounter all these splinters. I mean the teacher of the Ninja Turtles, that is this giant rat. Just find a whole bunch of splinters.
Oh, come on. We have a slight mouse problem. Okay.
Well, you rough heard of her Puerto Rico. Nah. She's American Puerto Rican. No, that's someone else who claims that she is the Negrita from the Bronx. That's not us. That's someone else entirely. So yeah. I'm gonna be bringing the next guest to the stream.
Okay.
What's going on, Drew?
Hey, teacher, how you doing?
What's up?
Hey.
What are we talking about tonight?
Well, I mean, I started the stream talking about what happened to author Salman Rushdie, and that got stabbed up there in New York at a certain amphitheater. I'm gonna be bringing up another guest.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening? 18 letter. What's going on?
What's up to my boy Ramon? Shout out to Truth.
Hey,
Shout
what's
out
up?
to Jose. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing fine, thank you.
Doing okay. Just doing a little bit of an impromptu type of live stream. This wasn't planned. Just wanted to talk to you guys, kind of like Recovery Monday. I call this Recovery Monday. In Puerto Rico, we have an expression that goes Recovery Monday, but that's when what a lot of Puerto Ricans do on the island, that they start partying on Thursday night, and then they go all the way Friday night, all the way until Sunday when they go to the beach and keep having a good time there. And when you are having such a good time so many days in a row, when Monday comes around, you have to recover from that. And that's where the whole recovery Monday comes from.
Well, speaking about beaches, we have beautiful beaches in New York. We have Orchard Beach, we have Coney Island, we have Brighton Beach, Reese Beach.
No thanks. No thanks. Chocha Beach? No thanks. I would rather go to Luquillo or Arecibo, Aguadilla, Salinas. No, those are beaches. Now those are beaches.
We have beaches in New York.
Yeah, no, you have maybe a shoreline, a dirty shoreline, but no, you don't have a real beach.
Nobody's trying to go to Chocha Beach. Stop it.
Make me choke on water.
Teacher, it says Ramon's jealous of us New Yorkers.
Yeah, no. Jealous? Come on. I have love for New Yorkers, but why would I be jealous if I have love for New Yorkers?
I mean, we have everything here in New York. We have culture, we have theater, we have the Yankees, we have the slightly cool winters over here in New York.
Mm-hmm. Nah. No, as I was saying, teacher, um, a couple of days back, there was this author called Salman Rushdie who got stabbed several times when he was about to do an address. Kind of like he was gonna do like a speaking engagement at an amphitheater up in New York City. And this man, Salman Rushdie, wrote a book back in 1988 that is called The Satanic Verses.
Yeah.
Do you remember the controversy? You're about the same age, so maybe you remember when the when the whole thing popped off the first time.
Yeah, you have to go into hiding. But here's the thing that I don't understand. Given the history, right, and given the climate of the times right now, didn't they have like a security detail at the talk?
When it comes to here, apparently not, and there weren't even checking on people's belongings. That's why he was able to sneak in a knife, and I think that the security was very minimal because it was attendees that had to wrestle with the guy to restrain him and hold him down. I don't think there was like proper security, like an off-duty police officer or something like that. Nothing like that. I mean, they took a major risk on that one, considering that the guy has been threatened for years and years. What was it, Rakim?
I was just gonna say they definitely their security personnel was definitely not up to par. If this man was able to get on stage and prison shank this man 10 times before anybody was able to tackle him and subdue him. I'm like, damn, man, I can understand once or twice, but if I get shanked 10 times, like somebody got to get sued.
Yeah, and the thing is that the man apparently he's in somewhat stable condition and he's already able to talk, and of course he has to be conscious to be able to talk. But he's recovering from several, like 10 different stab wounds, including one in his eye. He may lose an eye, but apparently he's still in good. He's in good spirits and recovering. I don't know if he's gonna lose movement in one of his arms. I think because it may have severed some nerves around, and there was kind of like a puncture liver. So it could have been worse. It could have been quite deadly, considering that the man is actually quite old. He's elderly.
Absolutely. That guy that attacked him, the only thing that was missing was the scream mask, man. Jesus Christ. Because he got up there with that knife and he was poking away. And that's why it's important to know that if somebody has an want to do an attempt on your life, especially when you're touching on the religion of Islam, that's a very sensitive situation. Now, we all know that other religions have had a reputation in the past of doing extreme things as well. But in the Middle East, just touching on Islam as far as imagery and different things like that, that can cause really extreme actions from fanatics of, the religion.
I mean, they should have known. They really should have known better, because just experience tells you that, those people, they don't forgive and forget.
Yeah, they have long memories, like I was mentioning earlier.
Man, so I don't know what the agreements were, but definitely the people who put this on, they should be held accountable some kind of way, man. Dude, I mean, somebody like him, if you were around back then, that shit was wild. I mean, he had to go into hiding for years.
Yeah.
So how could it be, and especially in this day and age when mental health issues is on the rise, and you see, goddamn, I mean, like freaking even Dave Chappelle got attacked. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, how you gonna think that somebody that had like international death threats on his back could just, just have an engagement that was just so lax in security?
Yeah. It was very open. It was kind of very open. Some people, some civilians, the security measures apparently were minimal. It was civilians that had to come on up and try to wrestle with the guy. There was another man who took like a knife to the eye. I don't think he's gonna be losing the eye, but if you saw the clip close to the beginning, there was another man that was talking about the incident, and he had an kind of like an injury on his eye. Yeah. So apparently he took kind of like a stabbing into the area around the eye. I don't think he lost the eye, but he had like a black eye.
But here's the thing, like when we have a president, right, that's out of office, they have to have security with them for the rest of their life after they leave office. So how do you think? I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, how people could be this clueless that this is somebody that was going to need like major protection.
Yeah.
And to consider like, shit is popping off right now between the Israelis and the Palestinians in Gaza. I mean, like.
Yeah. No, but that's whether people want to believe it or not, but that's like a whole different thing. That it may not have that much to do with religion per se. It has to do with land. It has to do with territory. It has to do with one group of people being one group of people's territory being compressed and being forced into a smaller and smaller area. If you look at it, what has been happening since 1947 when it comes to the Gaza area, and how the country limits between Israel and Palestine, the borders keeps getting redrawn, you see, in favor of one country over the other. So that it may have more to do with that than necessarily religion, and how one is supported more than the other internationally, even though other peoples recognizes that there is a real injustice going on there. But I'm not gonna get too much into that because I mean, there are certain things that you can't criticize.
Yeah. That's very true.
Well, look, what I'm gonna say on that is, it's true what you say. It's really, I mean, it is and it isn't about religion, right? I mean, one side in the debate, they have it that they believe that only people of their religion should have rights to that land, and the other side that is, okay, let's put it this way. They try to paint this in the media that this is a Muslim against Jew thing. But what they forget is that a large segment of the Palestinian population is actually Christian. So it's not about Judaism versus Islam. It's about one group of people that for some reason thinks that only people who are of their religion have rights to that land. And the fact of the matter is, the people that we're calling Arab, Palestinian, they're the descendants of the ancient Canaanites. And the people who were, Jews back in the past, the only thing that happened is that over time, people converted. So a certain segment of the population converted to Christianity. So that you had Christians and Jews in the land. And then later on, when you had, Islam came in, then some of the people converted to Islam. So then you had Islam you had Muslims, Christians, and Jews, but those were all the same people. And
Right.
you know, like the Jews were never expelled from the country. You know, people forget the history that before, you know, from the time of the Greek Empire, Jews had been migrating out of the country to these areas. Like, for example, Alexandria in Egypt had a very large Jewish population. And, you know, at the time before the Roman Empire, Alexandria was a Macedonian Greek kingdom. You know, like the Cleopatra and all those people, the Ptolemies, they were Macedonian Greeks. And Alexandria was a Greek city that was built in Egypt. And it had a very large Jewish community. And then when the Roman Empire comes along, they took over all of North Africa. Jews were all over. They were, you know, they went there for trade, for business, you know, economic opportunities. And they were everywhere. They were in Turkey, they were in Rome, they were all over North Africa. They were in Egypt. They were everywhere. You know, so it's just tragic that these two people who are really related are now being divided under the pretext of religion.
But you know something, true teacher, originally, back in the 40s, there was supposed originally the original plan they would have a Palestinian state and a Jewish state. The ones that objected was the Arabs.
Well, here's the thing. Let's look at this realistically. And like I said, you have to remember this quote unquote Arabs are the native people of that area, right? I mean, I've been there. And when I was there, I met people who identified as Palestinian Jews. And they, you know, I said, "Oh, you mean that you identify?" He said, "No, I'm a Palestinian. I'm a Jew. I'm a Palestinian. My people were here. We were always here. Before the creation of Israel, before the Europeans, Jews started coming in, my people were always here. We never left. And we were always Jewish. I'm Palestinian and I'm Jewish. I'm a Palestinian Jew." So that being the case now, you have a group of people who have been away from that country for 2,000 years. Stop and think about that. 2,000 years, your ancestors left. And now you're coming back to a country that's inhabited by the people who never left. And you're going to tell them, we're going to create a two-state country. Now, think about it like this. Let's move hundreds of years in the future. You got Puerto Ricans who live on the island, right? And now you got Puerto Ricans who are here in the United States. Let's say 500 years from now, these American Puerto Ricans are still here, but they don't speak Spanish. They don't really practice the culture anymore. They're an American people with a Puerto Rican ancestry. And they want to go back to Puerto Rico and establish a country. It's going to be half and half for New Yorkers and half for Puerto Ricans. How do you think that's going to go down?
Okay. Yeah, I get the analogy. I see what you mean.
So those people, they protested. I mean, they had a right. Why would they want to go along with something like that when your people have always been there? They've never left. And you've been under a different colonial rule for 2,000 years. And now you had the chance to have your own country and your own self-determination, and now a foreign power or foreign powers want to bring in these group of people that really have nothing in common with the people there and give them half the country.
Yeah, because that was with the backing of the newly formed United Nations when they established the state. I don't want to say the name, but but it was after the Second World War.
So you're going to go to these people and tell them that you have to give up living in the towns and villages where your people have been for thousands of years. You got to get up and move so that this other group of people, who are newcomers really, can move in. I mean, that, human nature, nobody's going to go for that.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just look at the United States, for example. We all know that this country was stolen from the Native Americans. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right? But now imagine if you tell people in the Bronx who have their houses, right, that we're going to give all of this back to the Native Americans because it belonged to them originally. How do you think that's going to go down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a problem.
Nobody's going to go for that. So what should have happened back in the day, after World War II, those people who were there in Europe, they needed to create new governments with constitutions that guaranteed the safety of all citizens regardless of religion or creed. They should have created governments, constitutional governments that protected everybody's right to citizenship. But you see, the thing is, the European powers, being the anti-Semites that they were, they figured, oh, yeah, let's get rid of all these people. Let's put them somewhere else so we don't have to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing like what they did with Liberia in West Africa, right?
Yeah.
They created Liberia because when Black people in the United States became free, they didn't want them here in the United States because it was looked at as a bad example for the enslaved people here. We don't want these slaves getting any ideas and deciding that now they want to rise up and have freedom. And we don't want them in the United States threatening the social order. So you know what? Let's get them all, round them up and send them back to Africa. But then they go back to Africa. Were they the same people? Did they have anything in common with the native Africans that were there in Liberia?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not. They were completely culturally changed. They were Americans with a completely American outlook on life, culture, point of view, and everything. And they had nothing in common with the actual African people that had lived there. But, from the United States, oh, well, they're all a bunch of, so they're all Black, they're all the same. Just throw them all together, they'll all get along because they're all the same. But they're not the same. And that's the same thing that goes back to the conversation you all were having about, New Yorkers versus Puerto Ricans, are they the same or are they different? When you move away from your country of origin, you're not the same. You're different. You're culturally different. Yes, you have your roots there, but you're not the same. Just like me, I'm Jamaican.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised there, but I was born here, and I've come back. And I've been here without any real contact with Jamaica for damn over 40 years.
Wow.
So I can't go back to Jamaica now and act like I'm one of them. I haven't been through what they've been through. I haven't lived the experiences that they lived.
Right.
You know, so I am different. Now, does that mean that I'm any less Jamaican? No. My ancestry and my heritage is always going to be that, because I sure as hell ain't African American. I don't have anything culturally really in common with African Americans. I mean, it's a different culture. So yeah, I am Jamaican, but not in the exact same way as people who are living there in the island.
Right.
You know,
Right.
there's certain things that we share.
Yeah, but
But
you did have like an early upbringing down there on the island.
yeah, I did.
Okay.
But the Jamaica that I grew up in doesn't exist, and I know Jamaica from the perspective of a child.
Okay.
So like, I can't tell you how to get from point A to point B in Kingston, because when I left, I was a kid. I wasn't going nowhere. I don't know how to drive down there. I don't know none of that shit.
Right. Right.
So the only thing that I have is I have my ancestry, I have my heritage, but the day-to-day reality of living the life and living the culture, I don't have that. And there's nothing wrong with admitting it. So same thing, with the situation with that part of the world, it was doomed to failure from the very beginning. Because you can't take a group of people and talk about 2,000 years. You left 2,000 years ago. Come on now. You know what that is? 2,000 years? Jesus Christ, man. Come on. We got tensions between Puerto Ricans and New York-Ricans, and they only been apart for like what? 40, 50, 60 years difference,
Yeah, because since that migration that started, I believe it was in the 1940s, and a lot of that happened in the 50s. My grandma was one of them that migrated from the island.
Yeah, and look at the tension. Look at the tension that we have between the two communities, and they're only recently distant from each other. Much less 2 millennium. Come on, man. There's no way that was going to work. That was a big, clumsy mistake, and the European powers only went along with it because they didn't want Jews in Europe. Let's just keep it 100.
Yeah, I have heard something about that. They facilitated the whole thing about migrating to the land formerly known as Canaan, but that was because they have the differences with them in Europe itself. I mean, but it's just that the European Jews, they extend all the way to Russia, and there are some of them over there. It extends to several places across Europe and Russia.
And check it out. I'm of Jewish descent. I have Jewish ancestry. But can I go and say that I'm a Jew?
Well, if you have like at least one Jewish grandparent, I think that's the requirement. If you have at least one Jewish grandparent, then you are eligible for citizenship in Israel. That's my understanding. I could be wrong, but is that what it is? Do you at least have one Jewish grandparent?
No, my great grandparent on my father's mother was of Jewish descent. I don't know if she was fully Jewish. No, she couldn't have been fully Jewish because they were Christians, but they converted. I think the family that was part of the family that stayed Jewish But the
Yeah.
part of the family, my family line, they had converted, and so they weren't fully Jewish. So
I
my
see.
grandfather was partially Jewish on his mother's side because his mother was partially Jewish. But that's my ancestry.
Okay,
Regardless
yeah.
of what anybody says, that's my
Yeah, it's
ancestry.
just unfortunately it may not be recent enough for you to be eligible. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's look at that now. They're saying that your grandparent, you have to have a Jewish grandparent.
hmm
Now, if I come and I tell them, well, I had a Jewish ancestor 2,000 years ago, how they going to look at me?
Yeah. That's too distant. It doesn't count anymore.
You're going to pop up and say, well, our people were here 2,000 years ago, so now this land belongs to us.
hmm
That ain't going to go down too well, man. It's just common sense and human nature. It was never going to go down well. And it wasn't really a thing against Jews per se, because there had always been Jews there in the country. It was a multi-religious area. But the issue is, you got a group of people coming in here who are different than us. They have a different culture. They have a different language. And we were trying to get the Turks off of our backs so that we could have our own country. Finally, for the first time in 2,000 goddamn years. And now you're going to talk about, you're going to give this half of the country to these strangers. Well, which half are you going to give them? Because the whole goddamn place is populated with our people.
Yeah.
So for you to give half the country to somebody else, that means you want half of us to leave our homes, to leave our land, to leave our life, and go where exactly? So that you can give half of the country to a group of people who were at that point a numerical minority, who were recently arrived from Europe. Like, come on, that ain't make no sense.
Yeah. And it was a refugee camp. That's what basically it is. It's
Yeah.
what they have in the Palestinians. That was a created refugee camp. It's never gonna be like a proper country. It's kind of like when they brag over here about how they are building up a wall, and over there they don't understand that wall is a containment wall. It's not about border security. It's a containment wall.
And it's just a really tragic situation that was born out of a lot of prejudice. Because look, at the end of the day, I blame the colonial European powers, because it's not like they didn't know what Hitler was up to. They knew what Hitler was doing to the Jews. They knew he was rounding them up. They knew he was putting them in concentration camps and the whole nine. And what did they do? Not a goddamn thing.
At first they didn't do anything. Yeah.
And even when you had Jews who were trying to escape Europe, there was that boat, that famous case of the boat called the Exodus. These people, they managed to get, their funds together and get on a ship to evacuate Europe. No fucking country would take them in, including the United States. The United States refused to let those refugees come in and sent them right back to Europe. And then what do you think happened when they got back to Europe? They ended up in the concentration camps. So nobody in Europe wanted to do right by the Jews. What they used to call it, the Jewish problem. What the fuck you mean problem? Jewish problem. What the fuck do you mean a problem?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about a group of people and they're a problem. Why the hell are they a problem? Because your ass is too fucking racist and you don't want to do the right thing and protect their rights as citizens in your country. So they let those people get slaughtered. And then, you know, after the war, they still didn't want to have those people there. So they figured, you know what, let's get rid of them and send them someplace else. Let them be somebody else's problem. And that's what they did. And now look at where we are now. If they had done the right thing and protected those people from Jump Street, nobody would have ended up in concentration camps. Nobody would have ended up killed. Nobody would have ended up with a reason to say, you know what, we need to get out of here and go someplace where we're safe. None of that shit would have happened. And furthermore, since they were in control of the Palestinian territory, why couldn't they have made a country where everybody's rights was protected? So it would have been just another country like any other country, and you have immigrants who come in and they go through a process of naturalization and citizenship, and their rights are protected regardless of their religious affiliation. A democratic, secular country. Why couldn't they have created that? And then it wouldn't have been a problem because Jewish people who had gone through whatever, the Holocaust in Europe, and they didn't want to be there anymore, okay, they could have immigrated to Palestine and they could have been part of the country, and it would have been everybody. We're all here together. We're creating a country together, and we're all safe and we're all protected.
Yeah.
Why couldn't they have done that?
No, because they wanted to establish their own state that was like decidedly Jewish. I mean,
yeah, but you know,
when it comes to their identity, they wanted to have their own state and their own identity. They didn't want to just become part of the Palestinians.
Well, and how is that working out?
No, not very well. Not very well. I mean, it's nothing is going to be solved anytime soon. It's just that a lot of people are ignorant of the actual history, so it's easy to just demonize the Palestinians. They're not understanding what exactly is it that is happening in the position that they are in. I mean, and how their territory becomes more and more compressed and more refugee camp like. I mean, it was a refugee camp from the beginning. It's just that it's only getting worse because there may be more people, but the land is becoming smaller, so it's becoming more compressed.
And the tragedy is, you know, they've done recent DNA analysis of these people. What did they find? They're all related.
Yeah, ethnically, yeah, I'm sure.
Genetically, they're all related. The Palestinians and the so-called, you know, Jews or whatever, they're all related. They're all related. So basically, you're talking about, when you really boil it down, you're talking about the same damn people fighting each other, just because of the fact that one group has a different religion than the other. But the actuality, they're the same damn people, genetically speaking. It's tragic.
Gotcha. I see.
See, that's why, you know, man, this whole thing about classifying, it's a dangerous thing. That's why I don't like playing that game, because they use it against you. You know, they've been calling Palestinians Arabs. They're not Arabs. They're Arabized. There's a difference. They're Arabized people. They're not Arabs. You know, before the Arabs came, what languages speaking the same language that Jesus spoke back in the day, Aramaic. Everybody spoke Aramaic, which is a language that's very similar to Arabic. But, you know, when the Arabs came in, it's the same thing. Look, it's the same thing like Puerto Rico. It's the same thing like Mexico. Colonizing power comes in and they, you know, impose the language. The language becomes the language of business and education, etc., etc. And so the colonizers' language becomes adopted. So that's what happened. You know, they adopted the Arabic language. Then you had segments of the population that converted to Islam. But were they originally from Arabia? Some of them, a small minority of them. But the overwhelming majority of them were just from right there. They always been from right there. You know, so this whole shit that, you know, this whole thing about classifying people, it's a game that they use to disenfranchise people. You know, just like the same shit that they do with Native Americans over here, right? Let's look at the way they play Native Americans and African Americans, right? With this whole classification bullshit.
Yeah, I don't like to go through that. The whole classification thing. I'm just Puerto Rican. That's all I am. That's all I see myself.
You know,
yeah, but go on.
African American, one drop of African blood makes you black. So it's the one drop rule.
But is it really that strong, that game that they're playing with the whole one drop rule? Is it really that like that anymore? Because I can understand that during Jim Crow that being a thing, but hasn't that changed at all? I mean, doesn't people that are kind of like more mixed or biracial, isn't there supposed to be like a hierarchy depending on skin tone?
African Americans are a mixed population. And depending on the family group, you know, depending on the family determines just how much mixture you have. You got African Americans, people that are classified as African American black, who are only 20% African. So stop and think about that. 20 for not even a quarter African, but you're categorized as African American. Why? Because the government has this one drop rule policy. You know? But then now when it comes to Native Americans, does one drop of Native American blood make you Native? No. In order to be considered Native American, you have to prove that you have a certain percentage of Native American ancestry. So now why is that? Let's take a step back and ask, why is it one drop of one group makes you 100% one thing, but the other group, you have to prove that you got a certain amount of ancestry from that group in order to be part of that group? It all comes down to money. They created this one drop rule bullshit because they did not want people of African descent, particularly people who were of mixed heritage. They didn't want them to be able to inherit wealth from their white relatives. So first, they made the rule, one drop of African blood means you are African, and Africans cannot inherit wealth from white people. But now, for Native Americans, you know, another group, a lot of them are mixed, right? But now, what do Native Americans have that the government wants? What is it that they always wanted that the Native Americans have?
Land?
Yep. They want the land. So, since we want the land, that one drop rule ain't gonna work. So what we gotta do, we gotta come up with another system so that we can disenfranchise them from the land that they're entitled to. So now We know that these people have been here for hundreds of years. We know the bloodlines are mixed.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're going to use that principle of mixture against them. So now you're going to have to prove that you have XYZ amount of Native American ancestry to be considered a Native American and to be recognized. And if you don't conform to our standards, then you don't have any right to the land, to your ancestral lands anymore. And we can take it away from you and evict you off of that land. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And this is a game that they played, not just with us, but they, as we can see, with the whole Palestinian versus, the whole Jew versus Arab bullshit. They're using it against those people. They classified them as Arabs and make believe like, okay, so you're Arab, that means you're really not from here. You came from Arabia with the Muslim invasion. So you're not, this land doesn't belong to you. That's the game that they play with. So it's all designed to disenfranchise people and to keep certain groups in power. And now another reason why do the Western powers want to have that state there? Because they can use them to keep a tab on all the other countries in the region.
Yeah, because they are surrounded by all of the Muslim countries.
Yeah.
And they can, it's kind of like right smack in the middle of it.
Let's not get the shit twisted. They don't give a damn about Jews. Okay, let's be honest. They don't give a damn about Jews. If tomorrow they decided that they could still get the benefits of having access to the resources in that area and they didn't need Israel anymore, they would drop them like a hot potato. That's just the damn truth.
Okay.
So it is what it is. Don't tell me that all of a sudden now you love the Jewish people. You let their asses out to fucking hang and dry.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few years later, all of a sudden now you love them. When they managed to escape and they were begging for sanctuary, you turned your back on them and sent them back when you knew what was waiting for them. You know that what was waiting for them was death. And you didn't bat an eyelash and sent them right back there so that they could end up in the freaking ovens. And now you're going to turn around and tell me that you love these people? Get the fuck out of here. It's only because they got something to gain. And so they're using those people to get what they want. And it's creating a tragedy. It's just created a tragic situation for all parties involved. It's a travesty.
Mm-hmm.
And does anybody want to talk shit? You know what? Jews are my ancestors too.
Yeah. Before they're gonna start calling you anti-Semite.
Yep. So that history of pogroms in Europe and all of that shit, those were my ancestors back in Europe that were freaking getting killed for no other reason than because they belonged to a different religion. By the grace of God, I'm here because what would have happened if one of my direct ancestors had got killed in a pogrom? I wouldn't fucking be here right now. So that's my history too. Those people had to live so that I can live today. Whether they recognize me or not, I don't give a fuck. My ancestors are still my ancestors.
Nice.
But I'm not going to go along with something that I know is wrong. The way the world community has handled this situation from the jump street was wrong. And they weren't doing anybody any favors. Because But the ironic part is they created the state of Israel so those people can live in peace. Do they have peace? They got power, but they don't got peace. Man, when I was in Israel, I seen families walking down the street. Everybody was fucking strapped. That's when I knew I had to get the fuck out of there because it was crazy.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because they have civilians can have their weapons because of the Palestinian threat, I guess.
Yeah, but the Palestinians, they have? Rocks.
Yeah, rocks and sticks. That's the only thing that they have. Okay. You can point out what they blame Hamas for when it comes to rockets and things like that. That's like a small group of people that the population in Gaza, they're not armed like that. Or am I mistaken?
No, they're not. Dude, I was walking down, I remember I went to the Wailing Wall. And there's a checkpoint before you can get in there. And I shit you not when I tell you that there was a family that was out for a walk and they were all strapped. They all had Uzis. Daddy had a Uzi, mommy had a Uzi, little Johnny had a Uzi. He wasn't even 12 years old yet. His little sister Susie had an Uzi. She must have been like, 9 years old? All of them were strapped with Uzis. What the hell kind of a life is that? That you're living in a place where you feel that you can't even go for a walk down the street without packing heat. What kind of life is that? What kind of quality of life is that you got to be living with that level of paranoia? That's some crazy shit.
And you're talking about recently, or was that a long time ago when things might have changed?
I was in Jerusalem in 1991.
Oh, okay.
I was there for 1 week. And that was the most tense week of my life. I've never been to another country where I was just like counting the hours to get out.
Yeah. Oh man.
Because it was just so freaking tense. It was really intense. And then to see the way that the soldiers would treat the Palestinians, because everybody there, they have to do like military service.
Yeah, I understand that is mandatory over there. Yeah,
it's mandatory military service. So you got these young kids, right? They're teenagers, and now you give them weapons. You've given them military training and weapons, and so a bunch of kids with power, how are they gonna act?
Yeah.
They're gonna act like jerks because that's what kids do. And that's exactly what I saw. They took full advantage of the power that they had, and they would just start shit with Palestinians for no reason, because, like young teenagers that were just running errands to the market. They just had their bags with, their groceries. They slam them up against the wall and choke them out and shit. For what reason? For no fucking reason except that they could do it. And that's what I witnessed. I witnessed bullying. I witnessed young people with weapons who were being out and out bullies because they could do it. Because they could get away with it. So that's the thing, man. Look, human beings, at the end of the day, human beings are all human beings. And when you put them in certain situations, you're either going to bring out the best or the worst in them.
True.
And in this situation, a lot of the problems that we're having is because they've been given leeway and a certain amount of power that brings out the worst in them. You know, it's like it's no different than the way whites used to treat black people back here, you know, over here back in the day in the South. There was nothing that, you know, a white person could do or say anything that they wanted to a black person, and they had no recourse for retaliation whatsoever. It's the same thing. The same thing over there, and I saw it firsthand. So, look, at the end of the day, I believe that regardless of what I think about how that state was created or whatever mistakes were made, the fact of the matter is here we are in 2022 and neither side can go anywhere else. You know, but everybody has to be protected to have the right to life and self-determination.
Yeah. The thing is that, well, they're gonna keep having a lot of power over there because we finance a lot of that.
Yeah.
I mean, because I still don't understand why the United States has to be paying reparations to them. I mean, we have been paying reparations since the very end of the Second World War.
We're paying reparations, and why not the countries in Europe? Like, they're the ones that fucked up.
No, but I think Germany too. I think Germany too pays reparations every year. So they're getting money. They're getting some money out there, but I don't know how is that administered or distributed amongst the people. I'm sure that there is corruption there too. Well, there is corruption. There is corruption because that prime minister that they wanted him out. I mean, it's not the prime minister that was there for a bunch of years. He was being prosecuted by his own people, which kind of surprised me.
Let me tell you something. Whatever reparations money they sending over there, I guarantee you that shit is not reaching everybody. Okay,
No.
Because there's a lot of people in Israel that are fucking ass out. They are not seeing that fucking money. There's a lot of poverty there, okay? They don't tell you that part of it.
No, we don't hear that. We don't hear none of that. I mean, because supposedly Israel is the better off country in the region. So
Well, in a lot of ways they are, but in a lot of ways they look. It's not fucking Disneyland. And there's a lot of internal tensions too between the European Jews who are in power and, you know, the Jews that came from the Arabic speaking countries. And, you know, and then you add into the mix the Ethiopian Jews that came in there.
yeah, I've heard some things about what happens with the Ethiopians there. I mean, that's like something else. I mean, like, why would they want to be there? That's all I can say about that.
You know, look, a lot of them were in, you know, it was back in the 80s and stuff, the 70s and the 80s. Ethiopia was going through a lot, you know, back then. So, of course, they did what all people will do. You try to go someplace else where you can have a chance of making something, you know, improving your standard of living in the world. So why wouldn't they want to go someplace where they were being offered an opportunity? Of course they would, you know, but the way they were treated when they got there, that's a whole other ballgame.
Real quick. Hey, Denise, what's going on, chica? Don Jose, something that you wanted to say?
Yeah, no, I just want to encourage Denise if she's able to join in. You know, it says that she might be taking one of her naps, so to speak.
No, it's important. It's important, girl.
I just want to say, Denise, Koki Lives Matter.
I agree.
Yes, Koki Lives Matter. Yes, they're cute. They're cute. That they sing during the night.
That's right.
Denise, tell me about it in October when the Yankees win the World Series. Okay.
No, the Braves. No, on that one I have to disagree with you, Jose. I want the Braves to win again.
Well,
I
you
used
know,
to,
you're
I used
entitled
to
to
follow
your.
the Braves. Yeah, I used to follow the Braves back in the day. Back in the 90s
Well,
when they
as I
were a
recall, the
consistently.
Yankees.
Yeah.
They're gonna freeze
As
if
I
you send them
recall, the
over here.
Yankees beat.
Oh, Major some cookies. No, 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 no. Leave them where they're at. Leave the cookies where they're at, because if you take them out of the island, if they're not in a specific part of Hawaii, no, they won't survive. That's the only place where they can survive, in one of the Hawaiian islands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm afraid that New York is a little bit too cold for the cookies.
Yeah, poor things are gonna freeze.
I mean, even though we haven't had a serious winter in a long time.
Stop trying to create cookie refugees, Denise. Evicting them from their ancestral lands. How dare you?
No,
Yes.
no, no.
Yes, you should embrace the cookies because they're part of the culture.
That's right.
That they are.
Yes.
De aquí come el coquí. That's what we say. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And they're cute. They're adorable.
That's right. They're cute. You murderous. What do we want? Justice. What do we want?
Cookies.
For the cookies.
Free the
Cookies' lives. All cookies' lives matter.
That's
Yes.
right.
I agree.
Oh, man.
Don't worry. Denise will come, she'll come around one day, She's gonna receive Jesus and she's gonna repent of her evil ways.
And she's going to live to be 100 years old.
That's right. She's gonna be giving speeches. I used to kill cookies, but then I came to life.
No, I know Denise isn't gonna do that. Kill cookies now. No, cookies are very significant. They're very important.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I mean, it's like eating, it's like drinking, it's like drinking rum, or or eating pasteles. You can't get rid of the cookies.
Denise is gonna come around. Don't worry. She's gonna get shaved. She's gonna wear long skirts. She's gonna have hairy legs. You're gonna see her on the street corner beating her tambourine and giving her testimony. How she was about to kill a coquille, and Jesus revealed himself to her, and she repented of her sins.
If you're listening, girl, you can come up. I mean, but I figure once you guys share your thoughts, I will be wrapping it up. So, Jose, I haven't heard you say anything in a while. What do you think? What teacher was talking about?
Well, okay. Well, I hate to admit I was kind of taking a little bit of a nap too, and I guess I'm.
Oh! So you're saying that the teacher was being boring? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
I'm playing.
I think I'm catching Denise's habit of napping.
Okay.
But all seriousness. The situation over in the Middle East that's been going on for a long time, and I don't know when it's going. We don't know when it's going to end, but the fact of the matter is, cooler heads need to prevail.
No, and the thing is that because of the politics involved and the tribalism involved, this makes it so doggone complicated. I remember meeting a guy who was, I think he was a Kurd, and he was telling me the same thing that an Afghan told me, which is the same thing that I think it was a Moroccan told me in the Arab countries, when it comes to the politics, it's all very complicated. And there is gonna be conflict and tribalism. The two major tribes, the Sunni and the Shia, that have been fighting each other for centuries. And okay, they may have the one religion in common, but they can't unite because of the different politics and the different tribal beliefs. And it's complex all the way back to before there was Islam in the Iberian Peninsula. It was already complicated then. that was only like a few several decades after the inception of Islam itself, that it reached its way to the Iberian Peninsula. It was complicated then already.
Mm-hmm.
Hot mess, but
it's no different than what was happening in Europe. I mean, look at the confusion between Catholics and Protestants.
Yes, yeah. That's out of that. That's where the Pilgrims came out of. That ended up in North America. Yeah.
And
it was because of the differences, the religious differences. Mm-hmm.
So first you have the split between the Protestants and the Catholics, and then you had the Protestants going after each other.
Okay, because the Protestants were divided. They were divided in this in like different variations of the same belief.
Yeah, because you had the Pilgrims, and then you had the Puritans, and you had all these different Protestant denominations that couldn't stand each other.
Oh boy! Yeah.
Human beings are fucking messy and complicated in general, man.
Well, that's kind of like one of the reasons why I don't get myself involved in it. All I can do while I'm in this world is trying to be the best person that I can towards others, trying to be the most kind of like sharing kindness as much as I can, and if I can be of help to somebody, trying to do that as much as I can. That's like the only thing that I can do, because getting into organized religion, it leads to this kind of mess. I'm not trying to do none of that. I mean, I would rather kind of like try to keep my sanity and trying to do good to the people that I care about, people that are important to me. I mean, it's what makes sense to me. I can't do organized religion like that. I can't.
Well, as the only Christian on the panel. Okay, if you take a look at the message of Christianity, I mean, it boils down to two things: love God with all your heart, soul, being, and you love your neighbor as yourself. Unfortunately, you have certain people who take a simple message and they twist it to fit their own narrative, and that's what's been going on for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hear you.
About the people that are in it.
Yeah. Well, fellas, I guess I'm about to wrap it up, because I do have to go and take care of something. But is there anything else that you wanted to share with us? Starting with Jose. Let's see what Jose has to say.
Well, first of all, as always, thank you very much for allowing me on your platform. Something, to have these discussions. I mean, it's great when we could have three people that we can have various viewpoints, and then we can agree, even to be agreeable when we disagree. I just want to encourage anyone out there, if they have not done so, please subscribe to Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. I do bring out some interesting topics, and last Friday, actually, I had a stream that lasted 3.5 hours, which is a long time for me.
Yeah, there was a good dynamic there. It was a good discussion. It was very good.
Mm-hmm. Of course, I in turn would encourage anyone to please subscribe to the Introvert Boricua and True Teacher as well. So
Thank you.
Yes,
All
yes. Subscribe to Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron and to Truth Teacher. It's good. Teacher, it's good to see you. It's good to see you because we don't see you much on live streams, and we don't catch you on some programming of your own. So it's good to see you and hear your perspective on this matter. But anything else that you wanted to add with before we close up?
Well, it's good to drop in. I'm trying to do more on my channel, but I'm busy trying to put my life together. But I'm glad that you had the stream so I could participate while I was finishing my cooking.
Yeah, I could hear it. I knew that you were in the kitchen. I could hear you cutting on a table, and so I could hear you opening and closing your cabinets, and I could hear all of that. Ah, the man is cooking. Yeah. No problem. No problem. Thanks for being on the panel. So, yes. I mean, if there wasn't anything else, I'm not gonna have a backstage because I do have to take care of something. But what I wanted to do is to thank you guys and thank you to the chat for posting and sharing. And next time, hit the link. Join the panel. I want to hear your voice. I prefer hearing people's voice. I mean, it's easy to just type a message, a little text here and there, and put it in the chat. That's okay, I guess. But I prefer to hear people's voices and hear your thoughts. So let's try to do that next time. And aside from that, I guess I can say thank you, guys. Thank you to the panelists, and I will be seeing you on the next one. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.